digital transformation is really a leadership steer, and it requires a rethinking of the business models. And this is perhaps now with COVID, it's got accelerated. It will leapfrog, but digital transformation prior and in current times will mean relooking at business models. You need to step back and look at what are the other ways of doing business. It could be it's also beyond e-commerce. I think we see a lot of a lot of conversations around e-commerce is the next thing. I think within the organization, there are so many functions which are going through a complete transformation. So sales does not imply only the last touch point. It also requires how you're going to train your sales force. How are you going to reach your retail sales professionals? How are you going to ensure that they are constantly updated? How are they managing their sales inventory? It's inventory management. Post sales. So how about your customer care? What is happening on that domain? Are you able to service them online? Indian people are still love the tangible, touch and feel. They love talking to a person. They're not really DIY, but is there going to be a change in DIY approach post the COVID? So there may be certain accelerators, there may be some fuel added to the acceleration, but these are certain essential functions that one needs to look at. The invoice and procurement, would you require any more of your PO work happening offline, any kind of invoicing done offline, or it can be all online. HR could look at how are they training their interns, how are they onboarding, how are they recruiting. So all processes need to be looked at. You need to look at not only the model, but every function, coming up to speed with digital adoption. Having said that, there is a sudden leapfrogging in the adoption of digital, which has happened today because of our circumstances, which implies that we need to be sure that the organization is equipped to scale up at that level. And it also requires the understanding of the employees. It requires scalability of solutions on a technical level as well. It requires us to be ensuring that there is privacy of our customer data banks being maintained, and we are working on secured systems. So there are many other aspects of scaling and digital transformation which come into play. What's our choice of technology? Is it going to cater to something for today, or is it going to cater for tomorrow? And I think that's something that we need to be very mindful of when we are taking those decisions, that we are not trading off short-term gains for long-term foresight. And that's not true only for campaigns, it's true for what you're investing in as your business model. So don't be short-sighted. Don't try to do things because this is the right moment. And, today the sentiment is of certain ambiguity. So let's mine it. Invest for tomorrow. So that's another thing in digital transformation. Really, nobody has a 100% solution. Nobody's got it right already. So I think the first thing is to deal with ambiguity and accept and acknowledge that it is an ambiguous situation. And there may be multiple solutions. Nobody knows it right. So accept it and work, so long as you are working on a few parameters, which could be being authentic, being true to your brand values, understanding the why you're doing it, not being short term, and using some of these great tools that we've spoken about in this session. If you have set your parameters, which need to be fewer than more, because then you're just complicating your decision making process, then go with those decisions, because nobody really has the right answers at this point. The other is looking at it from a consumer perspective. We've already spoken about how the consumer is also changing. Will the consumer mindset today, which we are seeing in the market, let's say, an appetite for being more mindful. You see a lot more sessions being taken by spirituality, the spiritual gurus these days, people indulging in yoga, meditation, cooking, DIY things, reading, learning. Is this something that, we will care for doing, post-COVID, which could be a year and a half down the line, a year down the line, nobody knows, So we don't know the longevity of this consumer mindset, and will this be something that they will carry forward? We also we don't know which of these trends may pick up. So, but it's important to start at least putting them together. Will people become more eco-friendly? Will sustainability and environment become an important concern? So start putting those together and start observing, start listening, start actively listening. And it's very important at this point to also look at, policies and industry policies, economic policies, looking at what other countries are doing. So be very informed about what's happening around you. An example, and there'll be some difficult questions which will start cropping up. For example, in Australia, there is this whole conversation about content creators versus aggregators. Why is all the revenue going, to the aggregators and publishers like Google and Facebook who are not creating content, and rightfully so. Maybe these conversations were in the background earlier, but because there were revenue streams, people were not as bothered. But today, with their revenue streams drying up, this becomes a bigger concern for them. So there will be new, more difficult questions coming up. Just stay informed and be more mindful of what you're doing.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.